Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today's video is sponsored by moxfield.com and our deck list comes to us from Nikolai M, who wanted us to play with some Stasis. Now this is going to be a thick deck tech because I'm going to talk about the original build that I was sent and then I'm going to talk about what I'm actually playing. So if you're in a hurry, feel free to skip to the gameplay or to the secondary deck list as I'm going to break this deck check up into two parts. Okay. If you haven't played with or against Stasis before, it's miserable or wonderful depending on which side of the equation you're on. Players don't get untap steps anymore, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you sacrifice Stasis unless you pay 1 blue mana. Well, Phil, how are you going to get that blue mana if you don't get to untap your stuff anymore? And the answer is that you use a card like Quirion Ranger to bounce a forest you control to untap target creature. You can use Quirion Ranger with some mana dork, or maybe even just itself, to bounce a land. I don't know, is there perhaps a forest island in this format that's pretty decent that we could play? There in fact is. Our goal is to take a tropical island, bounce it back to our hand, replay it, use that to keep the stasis lock in play forever. And there's also some secondary ways here to go and make sure that you can hold on to your stasis, including the Forsaken City, which doesn't untap during your untap step. Not a problem here, but at the beginning of your upkeep, you can exile a card from your hand. If you do, you get to untap this. You don't really get cards anymore, because whatever card you use, you draw for turn, you use to untap this, but it's another way to get a stasis lock. And then there's two other kind of neat things here. Revi, for example, when it, or another creature you control, deals combat damage to a player, you may untap target permanent. So that's another way to keep the lock going. Conveniently, recently, a new card was printed that is a wonderful win condition with Stasis. It's a creature that can actually keep attacking through Stasis. White Plume Adventurer takes the initiative and gets to untap itself, or maybe all of your creatures eventually, each combat step. Each upkeep, which is very valuable. Now, here's the thing about this deck list, though. And I mean this constructively. I think this deck list has a misunderstanding about how the stasis is supposed to be used. I don't think you are supposed to use turbo tutors to go and find the stasis. And I don't like Stifle as a way to attack opposing fetch lands. And I don't like Daze. You're building this deck like it's an all-in combo deck. But the thing is, Stasis doesn't kill your opponent. It just stops them from winning. So let's take a look at how I've rebuilt the deck list. Alright, so let's take a look at what I'm actually going to be playing today. And this is a deck list that I came to after talking with Bosch and Roll, aka Brian Koval, my podcast co-host, a little bit, and I gained some sage-like wisdom from him. He recommended cutting the cute land, the Tarnished Citadel. He just thought it was unnecessary. He was winning games without doing that, and the land itself is incredibly awkward if you are trying to use it in a fair way to just, cast reasonable Magic the Gathering cards. So that one's getting the cut here. And when we cut that, we're also going to be getting rid of a lot of the things that are treating Stasis like a that are treating Stasis like a combo deck. Nikolai's original deck list is trying to assemble Stasis as quickly as possible, and that means playing things like those tutors and the dazes to protect them. But I think that's bad for two reasons. Number one, I don't think the deck can super easily afford Daze and Quirion Ranger and Scryb Ranger all at the same time. I think that's incredibly taxing on the mana base, especially since you do want a couple of basics in your deck for the purposes of the initiative and just not exposing yourself to Wasteland on the first few turns of the game. Number two is that I believe that Stasis is a tempo card, not a combo card. Assembling a stasis lock doesn't actually win you the game, it just buys you a lot of time. And because of that, you want to be doing things that kill your opponent in some capacity. You want something cool in play, and then you want to be able to go and jam the stasis to put the nail in the coffin. Our goal is more to play something like a Seasoned Dungeoneer, a White Plume Adventurer, or a Teferi, and then drop the stasis by 3 or 4 turns until we've effectively won the game. We don't even necessarily need to hold on to the stasis forever, just for long enough so that we can win. And our deck is built around operating while stasis is in play, with all these various mana dorks, ways to untap them, ways to bounce our lands, and even ways to make additional land drops. I think Derevi is a very interesting choice here. When it enters the battlefield or a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you can tap or untap target permanent. One of the things that I thought about putting in this deck list was a Garruk Wildspeaker. I thought about running that over the second Teferi who slows the sunset, just so I could have another card that wasn't pyroblastable. But when I started thinking about it, like, if my goal is to have a stasis in play and my opponent has a pyroblast, they can just pyroblast the stasis and then, answer the planeswalker however later with their creatures or whatever cards were stuck in their hand. So I don't think dodging pyroblast is actually worth playing what is probably the worst card in my mind. As far as the sideboard goes, I'm running most of what Brian ran in his previous league. I changed some things around, and I thought about it more, and I changed a lot of it back to what he had. I am opting to just put another Seasoned Dungeoneer into the deck list in the sideboard for some of the times where we want to or need to sideboard out some of the cute stasis-y stuff, and I can just jam something big and dumb that can kill my opponent. All right, buckle up, folks. It's probably going to be a long league, but hopefully it will be an interesting one. If you're new here and you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. It's the easiest way to support my content for free. All right, it's stasis time. Okay, round 1 opening hand here has a brainstorm and a stasis, but I don't think I actually like this hand. I don't think it does enough. I like this hand much better. I think I will be keeping this. I think I need both the cantrips, so I'm going to toss back 1 Noble Hierarch. And I think this is probably a good time to read something that I wanted to read from the donor. They sent this in their original email. Stasis is not really strong enough for Legacy, but this was a pet project of mine, and I would like your assessment if this is the strongest list possible. I'm also a little proud of my Derevi tech. Deck outright loses to many things. Chalice and Blood Moon are devastating. Dredge and lands are near impossible to beat, and the clock is usually too slow for combo. So we're going to see if we can make the best of Stasis kind of despite these things. And I think I'm just going to lead on Noble Hierarch and kind of look like a more fair deck than I actually am. Alright, we're in play. That doesn't mean a lot. There's a whole lot of removal spells in this format. Is Legacy? This is Legacy. One's got a tricked out deck list here. And I'm guessing that we are playing against Painter, based on what I'm seeing here. Yep. Alright. Makes sense. We have a lot of blasts to potentially deal with here. And I think I am interested in playing Brainstorm rather than Ponder here. It is what it is. We potentially start trying to lock our opponent out with Stasis as of next turn. Go ahead and do this, play this land, pass the turn, with the intention of flashing in a Scryb Ranger at the end of my opponent's turn, and then doing the Stasis thing. Ancient Tomb from my opponent. Ensnaring Bridge is totally fine. I'm not willing to attack with the Welder right now. End of turn, I'm going to go ahead and fetch. Grab a Tropical Island. Play out a Scryb Ranger. I'll go ahead and make a land drop here. I guess I can take 2 damage right now. This thing doesn't need to be untapped currently. Or maybe ever. Yeah, let's do 2 damage. Opponent drops to 16. I'm fine with immediate stasis. Maybe want to ponder first. I'm kind of whatever on all of that. So it begins, and I think I will go ahead and use my Noble Hierarch for mana here, and jam a Stasis. Opponent says you are my hero. Okay, at this point, I think I'll go ahead and just pass my turn. I can play out some more mana dorks later. Now, we're like definitely not out of the woods because my opponent's deck has blasts in it. So end of turn, I'm going to go ahead and untap a Noble Hierarch, bouncing a Tropical Island. And now I will pay for my stasis. Yes. We've had first stasis, yes, but what about second stasis? And now I think I am comfortable playing out another mana dork in this turn cycle. And we've ground things to a halt. Now we're looking for a way to actually win the game. Again, end of turn, untap Hierarch, bounce Tropical Island, and we'll just kind of continue this pattern. A blue here, a preordain is totally fine as of right now, I think. I don't know, I can also just like start beating my opponent to death, like while I can actively attack with cards. Not have a ton of experience actually playing with stasis myself, so I'll be figuring out some of the play patterns as I go along. Alright, opponent is at 14, got some bonus mana available here. I think I am still comfortable casting this preordain. That's a White Plume, I like that. Let's bottom the Brainstorm, op that, call it a turn. That is a very real card. End of turn, same song and dance, untap a Hierarch, bounce a Tropical Island. On my turn, pay for a Stasis, replay a Tropical Island. I think at this point I go ahead and go white, activate this, untap this, bounce a Tropical Island, and go 3 mana for a White Plume Adventurer. That gives me the initiative, and hence a basic forest. Alright, now, with White Plume Adventurer, I get to go ahead and untap a creature. Going to put me, very safely in the range to actually be able to both block and pay for my stasis. Although my opponent getting a Pithing Needle for Scryb Ranger is not necessarily the greatest thing in the world for me. Ensnaring Bridge is also a little awkward. Alright. So, let's do this initiative thing. I think I'm going up the right side here rather than going to trap immediately. I don't know. I can still just forge and forge Scryb Ranger. Make Scryb Ranger less likely to die to random Fury type cards. Doesn't completely stop it. Alright. A for Stasis. Quirion Ranger is really nice. So my opponent has, what, a 1, 2, 3. They potentially have a 4-4. 1, 2, 3. They potentially have a 4-4, so this attack in is a-okay. Now my opponent can play another card from hand here to essentially blank my attack. Doesn't look like that's happening immediately. Right. My opponent goes to 9. I have a Dryad Arbor in this list because that's like very relevant right now. I took the Dryad Arbor out. Go ahead and play this into Quirion Ranger. Alright, opponent's fetching. You have a light white splash here from the look of things. Are not going. I actually think I'm going to untap. Well, I can untap like anything at instant speed. Oh, untapping a Hierarch is fine. And now I have 2 different ways to untap things so that I can maintain stasis. Alright, opponent is drawing a card here. There is a Grindstone. Pretty lucky that we've dodged my opponent drawing a Pyroblast here. Alright, they have more mana. There's another Welder. Ooh, LED means no more attacks are valid. Because my opponent can go Hellbent. Well, I guess I can still attack with Noble Hierarchs. It's all fine. So if I can't get through with the initiative, I can just loop through the Undercity again, but that's not really how I would prefer to do this. Need Derevi. So I can go ahead and untap a Noble Hierarch, bouncing a Tropical Island. Love to draw an Exploration to just kind of like make my life significantly easier here. I guess my attack in isn't super safe. 1, 2, 3, 4 artifacts. That's at least a 4-4, which is just better than this in combat. Yeah, so things got a little awkward. I guess I'm just playing a land and passing the turn for now then. I just don't feel good about this attack right now. I can end up with an untapped flyer pretty easily. Yeah, so I think I go ahead and untap my flyer here rather than going for additional mana. Float your mana. I don't think I've actually said this out loud, but one of the reasons why I'm actually doing math about like Urza Saga tokens is that my opponent can weld this bridge in and out of play kind of at will, in a way that's very scary for me. So I don't really want to just like accidentally lose the initiative and then end up with a billion things tapped. Just another grindstone. Okay, that is a grindstone targeting themselves. A Phyrexian Dragon Engine. When it ETBs from the graveyard, you can discard your hand to draw 3 cards. And it does have Unearth. Spirit Guide is being used. Two Spirit Guides. Okay, they are turning a land into a Phyrexian Dragon Engine. We'll discard their hand to draw 3 cards. Ooh. Arn that kind of got stuck in hand. And we're hoping to dodge Painter or a Red Elemental Blast here. Uh-oh. We did not dodge Painter. So I'm dead here. I'll let my opponent show how it works, though. They're going to put a Painter Servant into the graveyard. They're then going to be able to weld that in, targeting whatever. Put the Painter into play, and then activate LED to get rid of Grindstone. But they're going to let me go to my own turn first. It's safer for them to wait to do this until next turn, but they are kind of at 3 life. All right, we're going to draw our card with the initiative first. This is the point where my opponent has to decide, am I going for it? And they are. That is a Grindstone targeting me, holding priority, putting a Painter Servant into play. And unfortunately, I don't have a Swords to Plowshares or equivalent in play right now, so that means I am going to die to my initiative trigger here. So I will concede rather than show my opponent my deck. Maybe I could have pushed damage a little bit harder in some of those early turns. Maybe I could have like bounced one back more land, try to get one more attack in. But honestly, I think it was a miracle we were alive that long. So what is my plan? I can just morph into a controlling deck list here that can fight against my opponent's mid-range plan very well. Like, I can board in 4 Swords, Rest in Peace, 4 Endurance, Energy Flux, Seasoned Dungeoneer, maybe Rest in Peace. Like, I can board in nearly my entire sideboard. I don't particularly like Force of Will here against the Red Elemental Blast deck. Like, that is probably not going to go my way most of the time. I think those are coming out, and then the question is, like, how in on the Stasis plan do I want to be? So I can cut a lot of the blue nonsense from my deck and play a mid-range game for game 2 here and keep some number of Stasis as a tempo card, not necessarily as a, like, lights out card. I would want at least 2, like, for sure. But, like, my Stasis now involved me, like, playing a couple turns of mid-range Magic, nuking a graveyard or something, and then using Stasis to back up some other creature, like, with this stuff going on. I either want 2 or 3 Stasis. Maybe 2 on the draw. Go down, like, a Quirion Ranger. Yeah, I want 3 Stasis. Feel comfortable going down, like, a Quirion Ranger, a Preordain, and 1 Exploration question mark? Oh, I just can't count? I just can't count. This is 60. This is a 1-lander that can't cast this Ponder. That is a mulligan. This hand is hot. Absolutely keep this pitching 1 Savannah here. And the hope is that I can play a Hierarch on turn 1 into a Collector Oof and a Ponder on turn 2. And kind of hoping to dodge a like Lightning Bolt-esque effect. Fury will be very, 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 very cripplingly good against me right now. I like all the cards in my hand, so I'm just going to Ponder off of this Hierarch. Yeah, tradesies. Tradesies for sure. Windswept Heath. Fetch. Trop. Give him the oof. I mean, Saga's real good as a way to kind of dodge this. Painter's fine. My opponent has a Oh, it. Fuck. That was the card I specifically said that I wanted to dodge. Well, I think I'm gonna die real fast this game. Because, like, this just represents Grindstone and a kill another turn cycle or so from now. So let's try to find a Swords to Plowshares. Fuck. I guess these Endurances are going, and I think I've just got to go ahead and fetch again here. I think getting another Trop. The multiple blue mana matters for Stasis. Fuck, that's so bad. Well, I can redraw Ponder next turn, or I can replay Ponder next turn and get a little bit deeper, but this is not great. We can see some of the awkwardness here of like definitely needing a huge number of forests in my deck while also needing a huge number of islands. Oh shit, I'm just dead now. GG's. That was a blisteringly fast hand. That is a turn 3 kill. Today's video is sponsored by moxfield.com, which is obviously a deck building website, but it does a lot more than just that. So for example, it can help you keep track of your collection if you plug in what cards you own, or if you're looking to, say, see what the newest precons look like to decide whether or not you want to buy them or quickly look up the cards, that's available in one of these tabs as well. So consider checking them out. Okay, I'm going to be mulliganing this hand. I don't have starting blue mana, which I absolutely am going to need. This is a keep. I probably can't keep the Force of Will here. I'm already down a card, and I think if I like Force of Will, pitch Derevi, I'm just like not realistically going to be able to play any sort of fair game. I don't know that my opponent is interested in playing a fair game either. Oh, they just missed. Cool. So I'm potentially facing down main deck Swords to Plowshares here from an initiative deck. We're gonna go Tropical Island into an Exploration. And I think I just play Ponder here rather than play out the Quirion Ranger immediately. That's a Stasis. No shuffle. Now if my opponent plays an initiative creature this turn, I'm dead. Fuck. I was really hoping that they were looking for the land with that. I basically can't beat this card, especially if it is actually backed by a Swords to Plowshares. Alright, they've got a Plains. I get 2 land drops here. Savannah and Misty Rainforest. We'll go ahead and just fetch ahead of time. Grab a Savannah. Go ahead and play out a Derevi. And the White Plume's so good. To tap it down. Just untaps itself. Fuck, alright. Untap a Trop. I don't think I can play the Stasis right now. White Plume Adventurer's ability here is so brutal against me. Like, this is the thing that I want to do. Yeah, they did actually have that. I'm comfortable conceding the game here. It's not gonna happen. Okay. So my Stasis game plan is essentially defunct versus my opponent's initiative deck, which sucks. I don't think I have enough cards in my sideboard to reasonably board out of it, though, so I think I'm keeping it and just kind of hoping it works out better. I probably need to board in these 5 cards. Feel comfortable going down a Quirion Ranger or 2. I have a lot of that sort of effect. Probably go down like a Teferi comfortably. I think I probably have to play the Force of Wills to stop an initial opposing initiative creature, and then I'm not exactly sure what to cut. Maybe I trim a Stasis and the random Preordain. This is not exciting. I think I have to just mulligan this. I need a high power hand. This is not a high power hand. I can force an initial initiative creature, but then, like, I have a Derevi and... what if I play towards putting Teferi into play instead in a fair way? Like, force, pitch Derevi, pitch a... No, this takes so much mana. I'm gonna go to 5, I think. I just don't think this wins a game of Magic. This one also doesn't win a game of Magic, but I can at least see a route to victory. I'm going to need to top deck another land. Play Savannah, Quirion Ranger, pass the turn. I will need another land. Assuming I hit another land, I can play a turn 3 White Plume Adventurer, which is not nearly as good as the turn 1 my opponent is somewhat likely to play. Yes, I think I have to just let that happen. I get one counter spell this whole game. And I think I have to go over something that is just objectively more powerful. Yes, I accept this trade. It sucks for me, but I don't think I can force that. All right, I hit another land. Let's do that one more time. Cool. Uh-huh. Yeah, I just don't think I can beat opposing White Plume Adventurer decks. Like, the untap ability is so good versus my Stasis aspect. We're gonna try, though. I get to play my own White Plume here. I'm the one that has the initiative. Gets me another land. I can, in theory, Force of Will, like a Seasoned Dungeoneer. Another White Plume that's uncounterable would be pretty devastating. Basic land. It's a Palace Jailer. That is Force of Will worthy. Get out of here. And we'll see if my opponent wants to trade creatures. That is reasonable. I just have to accept this and hold the initiative. Not going to win if they have it. Let's scry 2. That Stasis doesn't really work here, given the lands that I have. So I think I have to bottom both of these and hope to hit a little harder. Nope. Well, that's fine. You know, cards are on the table. Opponent still has 4 cards left. I think they just play another initiative creature and I lose. I mean, a flyer is pretty bad too. Okay, there is another land. We're going to stash. Take my treasure. That's a whiff. I think I hold that for brainstorm purposes. And then I have a problem here if my opponent can play another creature after this. All right, I take 2 down to 15. Opponent will forge up their Archon. Oh no, they are going for the Lost Well. Oh, that was top. That's not good. Okay. I'm getting my Noble Hierarch Oblivion ringed by Touch the Spirit Realm here. And now I can't take the initiative back. This is all sorts of bad news. Okay, I can take the initiative back. Am I fine with taking White Plume and Stasis? I gotta take White Plume and Stasis. Archon. Right. Now that I know I'm not getting a brainstorm immediately, I think I just played that land. Alright, take your treasure token. Oh no. They've named Construct with that, so they are about to make a very large walking ballista that can just kill my White Plume and or, like, the skeleton that I could get. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna take 2 from this attack. This White Plume Adventurer is dead on entry. And my opponent can also just, like, use their mana to pump 1 counter into this to, like, also take out my skeleton. Alright. Play White Plume Adventurer. I'll take the initiative. I will get my creature. And I can't play Stasis afterwards as a tempo play. Despite the fact that I would love to do that. Yep, that's fine. I think you can put the Walking Ballista into combat there. And pump mana into it, but, like, I don't know what my opponent's other cards in hand are. So, for example, if they have another initiative creature or a solitude or something, it just makes more sense not to do that. I guess if they want to hold the initiative no matter what, that's a thing. Now they can just block with both of these. Now they still just ping this. I'm so dead. Can't attack with this, or my opponent just puts a counter on it, blocks it, and I just give that body away for free. I can't play Stasis when I'm behind on board like this. Center's tapped. I'm going to see what my opponent gets off Throne of the Dead 3, and then I think concede. I also just think my opponent potentially has, like, a Solitude or something in hand. I think they also just didn't use their mana, right? Yeah, they get a Solitude or a Seasoned Dungeoneer here. I am comfortable throwing in the towel. It is not happening. GG's. Okay, I think I am comfortable keeping this hand. I've got an early cantrip to maybe help find a stasis, and I've got multiple things to do when I am under a stasis, so I think that's fine. Let's go grab a trop, and let's ponder. Stasis would be fine. Mana dork would be acceptable. Stasis. I'm going to take 2 of these cards. I think I want the land over the Teferi. Like, I have 2 other things that kind of already interact with a stasis. Keep the stasis on top of the deck for right now. Basic planes. Esper Sentinel. That worth a Force of Will? Really prefer not to. I let that one sit and play. We'll play a land for our own turn, pass the turn. I think I'm probably 2 turns away from playing Stasis. I don't think I just jam it immediately. I'll go to 18 here, willing to take a little bit of a hit. Oh no. No, no, no. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. Force of Will, pitch Derevi on that. Aether Vial absolutely breaks my Stasis, I think. It just lets my opponent tick up to a critical card, put it into play uncounterably. Alright, understood. This Teferi that's on top of my deck currently is a way to kind of do cool things with Stasis. I think I'm still going to take it. It's very awkward, though. I'll go ahead and pass the turn here. The Teferi only pluses for 1 loyalty, which is kind of a problem. I think I trade a Scryb Ranger for 1 of these. Fetch, pick up another tropical island here. Don't need to tell my opponent that I am white immediately. Play out the Scryb Ranger. Trade these. And there's an Oswald Fiddlebender. This is the sort of thing that I was trying to keep out of play by forcing that Aether Vial. This thing is obnoxious. Oh, Mom. Yuck. Timing? Question mark? I'm just too slow here. Like, I always play Verdant Catacombs. Like, do I just Teferi minus, let my opponent attack out, kill this, and attempt to drop a stasis? I don't really have a stasis lock yet, though. Maybe I need to put this in play and plus and just kind of hope that by putting that into play and keeping it alive, I am actually building towards something meaningful. Yeah. Choose target artifact. Choose target creature. Choose target land. Tap them all. I gain 2 life. Oh, Wasteland's real bad. Oh, I wanted to get as many blue as possible for maintaining a soft stasis, if that makes sense. Now I might get Wastelanded off of a top deck White Plume. Oh, I probably didn't say this out loud. We're likely playing against Mono White Painter. This is the deck list that I messed around with quite a bit last year. And there we go. Oswald Fiddlebender, if my opponent has a 0-drop artifact, can just get the Grindstone. So unfortunately, this is a mandatory Force of Will target, and that draws my opponent a card. My opponent's cards are just very low to the ground and are going to sneak in under Stasis. My opponent does have an interesting attack here of either... Oh, okay, sure. So this can only be activated as a sorcery, which means my opponent is going in on it on their own turn. Or not. I'm minusing this. I guess I'm minusing this. 2 Scryb Rangers? Alright, this was not revealed, so I am good to go ahead and just pass my turn here. Esper Sentinel only cares about non-creature spells. E-Tutor? What do you have for 1 mana with no targets besides E-Tutor? Or are you just realizing that Fiddlebender is sorcery only? Well, I might have just realized it's sorcery speed only for Oswald Fiddlebender. Yeah, so they messed up and missed killing my Teferi effectively. Ugh. Okay, so this is going to be really cute. So I'm going to cast a Scryb Ranger. While this Scryb Ranger is on the stack, my opponent is going to Wasteland me, and then I'm going to fucking Scryb Ranger again, and I'm going to save both these lands. Oh. Or not. I just bounce my land. Wasteland me again. Do it. Do it. What are the odds? He has 2 Scryb Rangers. Okay, this is fine. This is a neat card if you haven't played against this one before. It scales up as you get more artifacts. Lets you do some digging when it comes into play. Okay. Bad news for Phil fans. Yeah. So this scales up the Ingenious Smith. Now my opponent can activate Oswald Fiddlebender and get a Painter. I am dead next turn. Alright, yeah, they're not even going to go for killing my Teferi here. I'll play out a new Scryb Ranger, although I don't really think it does a lot. I really wanted my opponent to wasteland me again. I wanted that blowout. Stasis? Stasis? Question mark? Question mark? Question mark? Huh. Okay. 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 Yeah. Plus, I will choose Grindstone for my artifact. We'll choose Oswald Fiddlebender for my creature. I will choose Caracas for my land. An opponent, potentially not knowing that we're a Stasis deck, will probably just let this happen. Yeah, float your mana, that's fine. Fuck yeah. The combat. Okay, no creature got swords there. Oh. I'm gonna leave these untapped for now. Savannah. Opponent says, I really need to read my cards properly. May be helpful. So I need to leave this open. I need to let my opponent draw this card. But, like, things don't get awkward if my opponent draws another Wasteland. Hope of Girapur, absolutely. There's a lot of tapped stuff over there now. My Teferi is potentially dead this turn. Maybe okay? Do I block? Never mind. That decision has been removed. So with Pro Green, my Teferi's gone. And now we play the Stasis game. Pay for Stasis. This is a flyer. I don't want to trade in combat here. Go ahead and just untap this. Bounce a Trop. Replay the Trop. Pass the turn. Now we wait. I'm not sure that the waiting game actually favors us because my opponent has a combo kill that doesn't necessarily involve the combo step. The combat step. But they're probably very tight on mana in comparison to us. Ooh, that's Legend ruling a Caracas. Gotta do what you gotta do. And no attacks from my opponent. So we'll repeat this cycle until something cool happens. Bounce Trop. Replay Trop. And we're passing. Again, I don't really want to endanger any creatures in combat versus the Hope over there. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I potentially lose to, like, Swords to Plowshares breaking up this lock. Wasteland's good. Not great, though. We'll go ahead and pay. There is a Brainstorm. I can play that. Can I actually play that? If I play that, leave up Windswept Heath, I can fetch in my next upkeep unless my opponent draws another Wasteland, in which case I can't actually do that. I think I'll just make another separate land drop here and just pass the turn. I want this fetch in play for the purposes of Brainstorm. Alright, we're just staring at each other some more. Alright, pay for Stasis. Activate Scryb Ranger. Bounce this. Play this. I just need to pass with that Wasteland chilling there. Like, it's very awkward for me until I get, like, a mana dork. I could go a little deeper on Scryb Ranger bouncing forests, but again, without a mana dork there, I don't really gain much by doing that. Or an exploration. I haven't found something worth playing. Portable Hole. Huh. I don't have Stifle. I could Force of Will. That's very awkward to Force of Will. But I guess we're doing it. Need to be able to fetch after this. Take a card. Oh man, these were, like, this exploration in particular would have been very good. Alright, so I am about to lose Stasis. I think I'm just putting back these lands. Portable Hole resolves, and then I try to use Ponder to find another Stasis next turn. Yeah. so many cards now that just like answer random enchantments, whereas they used to be kind of like things that would stick around forever. Alright, opponent's going in with these creatures. Do I trade? The Esper Sentinel is really annoying and is going to feed my opponent cards. I think given that I have a Quirion Ranger, I'm very willing to trade here. Hope Agirapar is annoying, but like, given how my opponent has played, I don't know that they're going to realize that they can sacrifice the Hope to just like keep me from deploying a new Stasis. They might. Oh, I gambled wrong. Yeah. Ugh. Alright, they have painted it black. I don't get non-creature spells until my opponent's next turn. So I think I am effectively dead. Could be wrong, but I don't really see how I win. I can play this, get a basic land, but then my opponent just activates a Grindstone and kills me. Alright. I will concede. GG's. So, we saw there that the Stasis gameplay, the game plan just like isn't great. How do I want to approach this? Electro Oof and Energy Field, or sorry, Energy Flux are nuts. Those have to come in. Swords is playable. Seasoned Dungeoneer is playable. I don't really want Endurance. I do want to keep some number of Stasis as a tempo card. I just need, like... I needed a Mana Dork that game. That's really what I needed. Like, that would have put me, I think, over the top. But I was kind of in emergency mode, and I needed to play the Stasis when I did. My opponent has so many scary cards that I have to stop. I don't know that I can really go into full-on control mode versus my opponent. I just don't know that I win doing that. So I think I am going to stay pretty hard on the Stasis plan. Maybe get rid of a Quirion Ranger and the Preordain for these two cards, and I don't know about these. Like, my opponent just has so many things that I have to answer. Like, Oswald Fiddlebender is must answer. Esper Sentinel, like, is worth a Swords to Plowshares. Painter is worth a Swords. I just don't know that I profitably win by attacking my opponent's creatures. I think I try to lock the things down. And maybe that means I don't board in this as well. I don't know. I don't feel super comfortable piloting this deck list. I'm not sure if it's just like I haven't attempted to play much Stasis before, because like it's not really a playable legacy card, and I haven't played games against Stasis because it's not really a playable legacy card. Like, I'm not exactly sure what my role is and how I kind of approach matchups. We're on the fringes of the fringe here. I mean, this can produce a Stasis on turn 3 and perpetually pay for it, but it doesn't feel like without support that this actually wins. I think this one's a mulligan. I think I can just do better than this. Like, the Force of Will is basically making this a 6-card hand already. We'll be going to 5 here. This is utterly unplayable. 4 cards. Okay. The worst version of a hand I've already seen. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Alright. Alright. I need one more land or like a Mana Dork or something to be able to sustain a Stasis. I'm also kind of vulnerable to basically everything. Like a Portable Hole or Swords to Plowshares or whatever breaks this up as of right now. Alright, Ranger doesn't do a lot for me here. So my issue right now is that if I tap out for the Stasis while I can bounce a land to my hand perpetually, I need one more blue source to be able to start paying for it, since I don't have like a Mana Dork that I can untap. So let's see where this goes. Yep. And Grindstone as well. Sure. I think I have to get another Trop here. I am going to need blue 100% of the time to start things off with Stasis. That's going to take me off of a couple of cards, but I think I just have to accept that. Alright, there is a Savannah. So, let us begin. And I do have to let them draw the card here. I don't love, because Wasteland disrupts me right now. My opponent can just Wasteland this land, and while I can bounce it, I don't actually have a mana dork to untap, and that's really what I need. See if my opponent has more mana. They do have more mana. They do have more mana. Damn. Okay. I mean, that occurs. I'm not really going to answer an artifact with my deck list. Okay. We're not, like, technically dead or anything, but position feels pretty darn bad. My opponent has half a combo in play, a source of protection, and a source of extra card draw. Whereas I basically have a 1/1 flyer. Uh-huh. Would be a cool time to draw a banger. Brainstorm counts. I can't let my opponent draw the card here. I think means tapping this one. I'm dead. Actually, factually, just dead on board. My opponent, Oswald Fiddlebenders for a painter, and then still has 3 mana to activate. They might not do that in this turn cycle, but at this point, I am pretty confident that I am not winning this match. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to keep this one lander. It has 2 initial mana sources because of Noble Hierarch. Has a turn 2 Brainstorm. Has Quirion Ranger to untap Noble Hierarch, technically. My gut wants to mulligan this, but I'm very used to playing non-blue decks where... Alright. Okay, that land is very good for me. Do I want a basic forest here? I think in the short term I do. Oh, but this means if I get basic forest, then I don't have white unless Noble Hierarch lives, which is kind of a problem. But I just, like, really can't get wastelanded right now. I will grab the basic, play a Noble Hierarch, and pass. This is just, like, plays around me being wastelanded, but it makes my mana much worse, and it makes, like, if Noble Hierarch dies, it makes my Brainstorm worse in turn. Like, maybe I'm not supposed to play around Wasteland here. I don't know. I don't realistically think I'm winning this matchup. I think there is a giant gulf in power level between our decks. Like, Delver is incredibly powerful, incredibly flexible, incredibly fast. Ugh. So, my Noble Hierarch didn't get bolted. That's the good news of the current situation. That means that I can actually brainstorm. So let's maybe see if I can set something cool up. Aha! No fetch land there. Am I going to keep this Force of Will and try to fight over something like a Murktide Regent? Probably. Stasis is so easy to disrupt, doing counterspells and just actual lightning bolts on cards like Quirion Ranger. I think this just isn't happening. And I think I get rid of one of the 2 brainstorms here. Like playing Tropical Island into Ponder for a shuffle. Oh, they tempt me with the Stasis. Tempt me with the Stasis. Fuck, alright. Okay. I'll bite. Let's play Quirion Ranger here. It gets dazed. It gets dazed. That's fine. Okay, it did resolve. Let's see how bad this turn is for me. I am probably taking 6 damage. The hope is then that everything goes okay and I just resolve a stasis. And my opponent also taps their lands for, like, an EI or something. That doesn't find anything relevant. Yeah, I know it's a stretch. You don't have to tell me. I know. Alright. Dragon Rage Channeler does its thing. Ponder will be the 4th type. That other Ponder will be as well. Alright, Graveyard is now very much going to be stacked. That was a long think and then no shuffle. Right, new land drop. Not getting wastelanded. I am taking 6 damage. Down to 12. Okay. This is actually awkward that I have multiple basic forests here. Maybe it's not as bad as I think. Yeah, maybe it's not as bad as I think. Definitely awkward, though. Alright. Tempt Stasis around Spell Pierce and Daze. Alright, my opponent either thought about that for a very long time or went AFK for a very long time. I watched a lot of TikToks. Got another Quirion Ranger in play. I will be passing my turn here. I've already made my land drop. Guess I can just keep my creature untapped. I don't think it really matters here. I've got Force of Will for, like, a Lightning Bolt or whatever on Noble Hierarch. So, I think I'm good. Okay. So we will go ahead and bounce this. I will go ahead and float a blue mana. I will untap Noble Hierarch, bounce the forest that my opponent just did, and I've got Force of Will for the follow-up Lightning Bolt. Oh, no follow-up Lightning Bolt. I guess I Brainstorm with the open mana. I'm about to just lose it anyway. Alright. Teferi's cool, but I'm not super in the market to be playing and resolving that, I don't think. If I play a land drop... Yeah, I don't think I'm in the market for this. I think I'm just going to go ahead and put back 2 cards here. I should have done that in the other order. A for Hierarch. A with Hierarch, rather. I know my top card's a Teferi. Go ahead and make a land drop and pass. I am going to start netting mana. But I was supposed to put the Teferi on top and fetch that stuff away, but I didn't. So I guess now that I'm here, I will just draw the Teferi. Okay, looks like my opponent's just going to make a land drop and pass. Untap Hierarch. Bounce a forest. Upkeep, pay for stasis with Noble Hierarch. Got Teferi. I could potentially play Teferi next turn. I mean, I could technically play it this turn, but I don't think I quite want to do that here. We Brazen Borrowing. Are you just going to put a cantrip back on top of your library? They're just going for a cantrip, that's fine. Right, that is a petty theft. Starting stasis. And I am Force of Willing this. Just trying to decide whether or not I want to keep Brainstorm or Teferi. I'm not far away from getting a Teferi into play, but I think the Brainstorm is more valuable here for if this does not resolve. Ugh. I mean, it makes sense that counterspells would be in my opponent's hand. Because, like, they actively... Oh, Stifle. Good to know about. I think I need to make my plan right here. And there are some timelines where I do draw Force of Will and blue card right here. No. So let's put back 2 lands here. And we'll see where we can end up. Brainstorm now goes on top of Library. I'm in kind of a bad position. Like, my opponent's mana gets freed up, and they have access to a cantrip and another threat here. So I'm taking half of my life total, and my opponent gets to find something that potentially just beats me handily at that. Yeah, and they've topped a card with one of their surveils, so that's bad. I eat 6 in combat. Brings me to 5, which is effectively 4, because I just have to fetch with this Misty Rainforest, and maybe get stifled here. We'll see. Didn't get stifled. Pick up a trop. Can I play a White Plume Adventurer? Maybe. I guess I start with the Stasis. So let's attempt this. May get Force of Will plus blue card from my opponent. Lightning Bolt plus Brazen Borrower would beat... Well, would likely beat Stasis. Alright, that's a Force of Will. Why we start with Stasis. I can now play another Stasis. Oh. There's cards on top of Library there. Now let's go blue and 1. I'll deploy a new Stasis. It will resolve. I guess I hold these back as potential, like, future blockers. My opponent plays Brazen Borrower, hits me for 3. I go to 1, and I will die at any point to a Lightning Bolt effect that my opponent finds, and they haven't played one yet. There's a 4 in 36 chance that they just, like, naturally draw a Lightning Bolt, and a very high chance that they find one after a cantrip. You have to have the red mana, though. So, here's to hoping. They are going to take the attack and put me to 1. Red mana plus Lightning Bolt being the thing that beats me. End of turn here. Untap a Noble Hierarch. And bounce a land. I'll go to my turn. Pay for the Stasis. Play a land. I don't think the card that my opponent put on top is Daze. I'm going to go a little hard here. Go ahead and untap a Noble Hierarch. Bouncing a land. And then I'm going to play a White Plume Adventurer. Okay. I have the initiative. Get a basic land here. Guess at this point, that probably doesn't matter. I guess because of Stifle, potentially activate Quirion Ranger earlier, but I can just rely on the White Plume. Oh man, what's the card you topped? Lightning Bolt? I'm so sad if that's the case. Because, like, I was just getting going. Finally doing the thing my deck was designed to do on turn 8 of the game. Okay. I don't think I can play Stasis versus Delver. I think this, or at least, like, not in the same way. Like, I need to board in 10 cards here, I think, to have a snowball's chance at trying to beat Delver. Now, Stasis is cool and all, but, like, it's plan B. I like, maybe want about 2 copies of it in my deck. The Preordain can probably go. I am probably cutting a good number of Quirion Rangers. The Revi lines up kind of poorly in combat versus a lot of stuff that's going on the other side of the battlefield. Like, it trades with Delver, but it doesn't trade with Dragon Rage Channeler, which is kind of a big deal. I can keep the Scryb Rangers as being good with, like, Stasis and being pro-blue. I actually probably don't want Force of Will. My opponent is going to be bringing in a giant pile of blasts. That also is a strike against Stasis. Maybe a Dungeoneer goes in, maybe I put the Preordain back in. And then Stasis can still do things with, like, White Plume plus a Noble Hierarch. Or the Teferi. Maybe with only 2 Stasis, Teferi isn't reasonable. This is probably okay. Or, well, I don't know that it's okay, but I think it's as good as we're gonna get. Okay, opening hand. Pro blue thing. Counterspell. Brainstorm. Deep? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I have to play this really fucked up game of, like, choosing to play around either Stifle or Wasteland. And I don't have basic, like, plains and islands in this deck. I just have basic forest. Alright, I think opponent has a Stifle in hand if they're just going island pass like that. So we will do our best to play around that. Yep, that's fine. So our goal is to fetch in response to our opponent cracking Scalding Tarn. Our opponent does crack Scalding Tarn. Alright, they did not crack Scalding Tarn. They 100%. 100% have a Stifle in hand. So we will continue to play around it to the best of our ability. And I'll pass the turn here. Yeah, they have Stifle. Brainstorm is totally fine. Wonder if we're going to win this game by timeout. A little disappointing to be saying that, but I think that's where we're at. Yeah, I'm just going to pass the turn. I'll do, like, an end of my opponent's turn Scryb Ranger or something. I'm going to make them blink first. Sure, that's fine. I guess it's awkward if my opponent has, like, many, many, many Stifles, but otherwise I'm pretty comfortable with what's going on. Okay. Alright, we're staring at each other. My life total's not going down. Overall, I would say that I am good with things. I'm legit going to win this game by timeout. Send help. Alright, it's in play. I don't think I need to make any further moves here. I now have a perfectly reasonable attacker. I'm ahead on board. I'm just going to keep wasting my opponent's mana, and every turn that they are not putting a threat into play is, like, very positive for me. Okay. I think the Ponder is reasonable. If we get a red blast out of my opponent's hand, I would be happy with, like, 2 of these cards. I'm gonna go no shuffle here, draw the Endurance this turn. Yeah. I'm gonna make my opponent make first moves here, like, 100%. I would like to not have to cast this Endurance on my turn so that I can draw the Seasoned Dungeoneer. Kind of just be happy with my opponent just tapping out for a Murktide Regent, and then I can swords a bunch of stuff and move on with my life. Delver of Secrets in the Exile Zone. This is acceptable. Wasteland's awkward. Is it time to pull the trigger on spells? It's probably time to pull the trigger on spells. Like, I let one of these get stifled, one of these get wastelanded. I still have at least 3 mana. Alright. Really? I mean, sure. I'll grab a Savannah. I'll probably just play the Endurance this turn. Fetch again. Grab a Trop. I'm actually going to fetch another time right now to make Daze plus Stifle worse against me. Yes, this is fine. We'll make a green mana. My blue's not super important. My white is important right now. I'm going to go ahead and cast an Endurance. Maybe my opponent will stifle this trigger. A Force of Will, pitching a Ponder. That's fine. I believe I just let that occur. Go to my turn. Or so. Run it back. Sure feels like run it back. Like it was worth a Force of Will a second ago. Gonna do this before my opponent untaps and gets more mana. You can put an EI on top or whatever. I will accept that. 8 days is acceptable. Go ahead and pay for that. Another one? Oh. Okay. Graveyard's gone. I have the biggest creature in play. I can't get Murktided in the next turn. I have double Swords to Plowshares. My opponent is gonna time out. Like, I am so good with my opponent playing the, like, expressive iteration game right now when they are this low on clock. Like, they're not making decisions quickly. And so if they're not making decisions quickly and they're playing lines that take them north of 30 seconds to do per turn cycle, I just can't really lose. By the way, I don't think I'm supposed to block with Endurance if my opponent attacks this turn. I think I just take 3 and then eliminate that creature with Swords to Plowshares. Like, I just don't want to play into Lightning Bolt as a removal spell for Endurance right now. Oh, sure, yeah, like, absolutely. You may double bolt my creatures. Yeah, like, use 2 cards on that, then I'll kill Delver and eventually stick a Planeswalker. Bet. I'll go to 14. Starting point. Let's just make sure that's gone. Force of Negation, pitching Force of Negation. Acceptable. I know the next Swords to Plowshares will now resolve. I'm going to go ahead and just ponder at this point, though, and just kind of try to make another land. Ooh, Rest in Peace is really good. Rest in Peace is better than Swords to Plowshares here, I think. Yeah. No shuffle. Let's just go ahead and nuke the graveyard. I'll take 3 more from Delver, and then Swords it next turn. I like the games where you actually get to use your life total as a resource against Delver. Ooh. Second Delver is very good there. My initiative creatures that are currently on top of my library a little less good. What am I playing around days? Swords? Probably Swords. Remove this. Play White Plume and kind of hope that works out in my favor. Actually, I can play both around days. I play White Plume first and take the initiative, get a basic forest out of my deck. That is almost certainly the line. Alright, play White Plume. Take initiative. Play forest. Removing this, I cannot think. Well, I guess exactly brainstorm into Force of Negation on my opponent's turn would be one more thing that I open up by not doing this now, but I think I just fire this off now. I guess if they have Spell Pierce, it makes them use 1 more mana on their turn. Alright. I also just get to untap my Noble Hierarch here. Let's let this trigger resolve. We're hoping it doesn't blind flip. Damn it. I'll still just remove 1 right now. My opponent gets to dome me for 3. I go to 8. They take the initiative. Get a basic land if they have it. This would be a really good time for them to cast their Brainstorm so they can get a free shuffle. They're not doing that. I think I cast my own Brainstorm in response to that. I just need to smooth out next turn. Endurance is very good. Rest in Peace goes back. I don't need that. And then I'll just redraw the Teferi or whatever. We're basically hoping to dodge Lightning Bolt. I want to be able to take the initiative back and then play Endurance, and then Endurance beats Delver in combat. Am I supposed to attack with Noble Hierarch instead of White Plume Adventurer, so that if my opponent has Lightning Bolt, I keep White Plume over Noble Hierarch? I don't think so. I think the Mana Dork is more valuable than the larger body. Right. Attack with White Plume. It becomes a 4/4 if the Exalted trigger actually happens. Oh, I don't think that's actually a super good line. But opponent doesn't have time to actively think. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. Assuming things go my way here. I'm going to fetch first to see if my opponent's last card is randomly Stifle. Get a Trop. I could also play this card. I don't think I'm into that. I think I cast Endurance first. All a little weird here. Don't need to get rid of anything. And then I am fine jamming White Plume into Daze here. I will take the initiative. I will be going to the Forge. I will be forging up Endurance. And now we are significantly larger than any one creature my opponent has. Untap Hierarch. Yep. Cantrips are fine. Again, all I'm trying to do here is time out my opponent. I'm not actually trying to kill them. I just need to not die. I mean, my opponent chose not to shuffle. I don't know exactly what that means in terms of what they've found here. No, are they just gonna time themselves out? Yeah, that's fine. Why did you not shuffle if that was your card? I literally do not understand. Crap our opponent. It doesn't really matter what we click here. Just buying seconds. I'm gonna play a Teferi. Plus a Teferi. What do you mean no legal targets to choose from? Use up to one target artifact, up to one target creature, and up to one target land. What? Why on earth can I not use this ability properly? This card bugged? Okay, that's weird. Tap that. Tap that. Up to 9. I guess I could have untapped one of my lands. Doesn't really matter. 8 seconds on my opponent's clock. Guess my opponent has 0 cards in hand, so this attack is free. Exalted trigger. Opponent takes 6, goes to 7. Don't have time or mana to play Brazen Power. And I win the match against a Delver opponent who timed out in game 2. Okay. Alright, I'll be keeping my hand for the last round here. I am not very good at just drawing a couple of lands, a White Plume Adventurer, and a Stasis in the same hand, but the Seasoned Dungeoneer is pretty close, so we'll I guess take that. My opponent has kept on 6, and my Hierarch's resolved. See what kind of deck we're facing down. You would prefer something slow. Are you a hipster who plays their land in the second main phase? No, you're not. Oh, Force of Will is such a good fucking draw there, holy shit. Okay, we're playing against something broken. I don't know what, but something broken. I think I am just going to hold up all my mana here and not attack for 1 with Noble Hierarch. Draw step, stop. Miracle in? No? Like, it's almost certainly some sort of dredge type deck, right? Yeah. No. I don't think I get to let you do that. I think this is Brainstorm Pitch Stasis rather than... Or sorry, Force of Will Pitch Stasis rather than Brainstorm. Like, my Stasis is not going to do a lot here. I think the creatures all attacking once still kills me. Alright. Force of Will Pitch Stasis. My opponent can still get things into the graveyard this turn by just playing a Faithless Looting or whatever. Fuck you! Oh no! Let's find an Endurance with this. Those cards are not named Endurance. Okay. Life's bad. Probably can't play Seasoned Dungeoneer. I think I'm gonna throw back these 2 cards. I'm so screwed. It's a shame too, because with main deck Endurance, like, this is a combo deck that we have a reasonable shot against. Alright, so damage occurs. On a careful study, they'll hold priority, and they will crack their LED. Oh no. Alright, here we go. My opponent gets to dredge 12 total. Okay. There's no creatures in play yet. However, they get to dredge 12 more. Okay. There's a Hogak. Still no creatures. Ah, fuck. There they are. Okay. I'm going to evaluate the graveyard here. There's 1 bridge from below, so my opponent can make 2 zombies. 2 zombies is enough to put a Hogak into play. If my opponent puts an 8/8 Trampler into play this turn, I am largely going to lose to that. I think I don't let my opponent Cabal Therapy me and, like, see some extra cards here. I think I scoop this one up now and move to the post-sideboard game. Oh, I don't have Endurance in game 1. Right. I wasn't actually looking for that. So, Oof is good enough. I don't think Energy Flux doesn't really stop an LED from putting the cards into the graveyard in the first place. Swords and Deafening Silence are both, like, playable but unexciting. Blue cards, for the most part, probably don't get to come out of the deck in large numbers because of how important Force of Will is. So that means the Stasises are staying. I'm probably comfortable shaving a couple of these. Teferi is glacial here. Explorations get to go. Maybe Explorations get to go here. And this for being slow as well. Got 6 relevant graveyard hate cards and a few other things that do stuff. And has problems. Still probably a keep. You have hexproof. Up to 1 target player. Fuck. So the plan is now, look for Force of Will. That probably means brainstorming in response to something that dumps cards into the graveyard. I don't think I can just preordain. Like, I would I don't know, maybe I'm just supposed to preordain. Like, preordain also looks at 3 cards. Maybe I'm supposed to preordain. Brainstorm. Okay. When a Force of Will pitching Stasis, then it doesn't matter super too much what I put back. Force of Will pitch Stasis, hope they don't have another way to get things into the graveyard. I fucking hate Magic the Gathering. Why do I play this game? Why do I torment myself so? This game is going to take a few turns to end, but I have almost certainly lost. Oh, it's looting. Okay, the good news is it's just a Golgari Thug. It's possible for my opponent to miss here, although they didn't. Okay. Yeah, while I'm not dead immediately, this is going to be very bad. If my opponent puts a Narcomoeba into play, then they can Cabal Therapy me and turn that Narcomoeba into a zombie. Yeah. I don't know what you name here. Maybe like Ponder or something. Sorts of Plowshares. Stasis, okay. I don't think Stasis is super threatening right now. Like, I think Dredge just beat Stasis handily. Alright, do I want to greet it and try to either preordain or brainstorm into a new land? I think I do. I just don't really know how I win. Like, I don't know what that path forward is supposed to be. I kept my hand based on endurance, and my opponent had a ley line that countered it, so it feels like this is the end. My opponent gets a Dredge 5 this turn, plus an Icarid. The Icarid will turn into at least 1 zombie. Like, I guess I can draw... I don't know, like drawing a Rest in Peace doesn't really do anything here. Maybe I have to play Ignoble Hierarch on my turn to play towards Rest in Peace as an out, but... just gonna die to the onboard creatures. Like, I take 5 here, there will still be 5 power in play, even if I Rest in Peace. Yeah, now my opponent can, like, double Hierarch here. Or maybe just name the Brainstorm that's in my hand. Probably just name the Brainstorm that's in my hand. Alright, let's cast this Brainstorm, see if I can get myself out of this. I really don't think I can. Yeah, this doesn't really get me anywhere. I'm going to value my own time here in the viewer experience and toss in the towel. This isn't happening. Well, the good news is we won 1 match. The bad news is we never won a game of Magic because the 1 match that we won, our opponent timed themselves out. So as far as overall thoughts on the deck list go, I don't think I need to say very many words here. Stasis is just, like, not particularly something that's playable in Legacy. I know Brian played it and had a very good league, a 4-1 league. But I felt like I was the worst deck in every round that I played, and I don't necessarily think that's due to, you know, the 5 or 6 cards I changed from Brian's list, whatever it was exactly. I will say, like, I think on average my hands weren't great. Like, I don't know that I ever went turn 1 Noble Hierarch or Bird into White Plume Adventurer, and similarly, I never drew, like, an Exploration at all to, like, start getting ahead while activating something like Scryb Ranger or Quirion Ranger. And, like, I know the strategy that I was playing was kind of janky, but, like, I expected to be putting up some W's on the board. Like, White Plume Adventurer is a really good card, but I don't know how good the supporting shell is here. This one ultimately gets a thumbs down from me, and I really tried with this one. Like I brewed a couple different versions of this before and after I saw that Brian had recorded with something. But ultimately, I don't think I want to be messing around with Stasis again anytime soon. I conceptually love what's going on here with White Plume Adventurer untapping a mana dork to continuously pay for Stasis, but um I unless you're drawing hot, I don't think this deck does anything. And like there's multiple combinations of cards that you can draw where you're just drawing the same side of the deck again and again and again. So like if you're on Scryb Rangers and Quirion Rangers and Noble Hierarchs, like if you just have this stuff but you don't have a stasis, like you're not doing anything. And there aren't too many cards in this deck that actually win the game. If we kind of look at the same side of the deck here, like these 16 cards, and I'm going to count Teferi as well. Teferi like technically has other text, but it's not very strong by legacy standards. So like these 18 cards are all here to support this 4 of stasis, and your cantrips are sometimes having to help you like find a force of will if you're in a combo matchup, or help you try to like find something that gets you ahead on board. And so it can't always dig for the stasis that's so critical to your deck. So I just don't think this strategy is super viable. Like, would love to be proven wrong by, you know, people going out there and brewing and tuning this, but deck did not feel good to me. It was somewhat fun to play once, but this league took forever to record, and like my matches were slow, and when I was going to like turn 8 plus and dragging the game on with stasis, I wasn't actually winning the game. I was just not losing the game, and that didn't feel great. So while this was enjoyable once, I think I'm good with not playing stasis for another 6 months or something until some new card comes out that makes me want to dig this out again. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and leave any thoughts you have about deck building in the comments. See ya!